What I'd like to do is spend a little bit of time talking about powering customer connections. And where I'd like to start is actually FICO World. We are powering customer connections in this event. It's not just about hearing from FICO, it's about hearing from all of your peers in the industry and what they're doing. And where we see those market pressures coming, where we see the technology advancing, those are all Legos as well. And they feed into our strategy. What I'd like to do is give you a small glimpse into where we are headed, what we're working on, and maybe leave you with some future things to think about. The first Lego I'd like to talk about here is what actually happened from a market priorities perspective pre-COVID, post-COVID. So what you see on the traditional sort of market investment drivers, any one of you who's been in the industry back 5, 6 years ago, you would look at this list and go, yep, that looks like the list. But take a look at the list today from a recent study from Gartner. That list has changed dramatically. It's changed not only in the importance, but also the topics. And the number one thing on here is improve employee productivity. So it's actually great, makes my job very easy when all of you speak to the primary value proposition of the FICO Platform is driving your business agility. I love the statement from yesterday where it was actually Trust Bank said that those who can move quickly will eat everybody else's lunch, right? And it's so true. But there's another dimension of this that also is true, which is there's a level of collaboration, there's a level of coordination and communication between multiple groups that can actually bring this to fruition. Yet with all of this promise, only 31% of organizations in digital transformations have seen revenue growth, and less, 25%, have seen cost savings. Yet 70% of polled people, or organizations, actually say that they're going to be using software to drive digital transformation. So where's the gap? What's missing? You heard Stephanie talk about these market forces at play. There's a lot of promise in these market forces. You can't find anybody who's not talking about machine learning and AI these days. If you're not making investments in it, you're way behind on getting into any form of digital transformation. There's also the promise of cloud. It offers services that you wouldn't otherwise have available to you to drive those business transformation initiatives. But yet, there's still some stumbling going on with being able to adopt that. Hyper-personalization or personalized interaction is a goal for everybody. But the manifestation of that and actually driving business outcomes is still somewhat elusive. And there's a lot of investment being made in open ecosystems. Most predominant of them is open banking. And I know a number of you in this audience are making those investments right now. We actually think the one that's down here on the bottom rank of business composability, which is probably the one that you haven't heard of, is what is missing to unlock the value of these market driving forces. And the reason for it is very simple. All the technology in the world, all the process that you can put around that is meaningless until it's actually in the hands of business driving outcomes. And it's one of the fundamental flaws behind most of the investments in machine learning and AI, which are academic in nature. A data scientist sits in the back room and looks at data and finds features and said, this is very predictive, this is an awesome model, and it never sees the light of day. An amazing percentage of them, depending on who you talk to, it could be as low as 65% or as high as 92%. But it's a lot. And the primary reason for this is that The use of technology is to drive business outcomes. And if you don't start with the business at the center of it, you're never going to leverage it to its full capacity. So this idea of business composability, which we do today to some degree, is a primary area of investment. I was reminded of this in some of the consultations just yesterday. This is all great, but you need a business case. You need to have some kind of return if you're going to look at any of these technologies or implement any sort of process. And it's interesting, the shift that we see in our client base, where the things that they normally would have measured, revenue growth or profitability, are starting to take a back seat. They're taking a back seat to other metrics, like what is your digital engagement level? How many customers engage with you digitally? What's your NPS score? And how is that actually reflective of driving profits? Alison Clark from Forrester has a great set of research on this, and if you haven't heard from her, I'd strongly recommend you go to that session. And in that, she talks about many things, but one of the things she talks about is the fact that just focusing on the engagement with the consumer, it's known that it will drive revenue growth and it will drive profitability. It's just known. So it's not that you're not measuring that KPI, but there's a superordinate KPI. I could spend my entire 15 minutes up here talking about this slide, but what I'd like to do is sort of paint the picture here of how getting to those business outcomes starts with this concept of building a culture of collaboration and innovation across your enterprise, which means you need to think about all touch points with the consumer, not any one. I frequently get asked, Bill, what's the most common use case for the platform? And Don Peterson will give you the same answer I'm giving you. There isn't one. They're so diverse. But what we do see is it actually transcends the full life cycle. It transcends every part of your customer engagement, and in some cases, what you might consider very minute things. In order to power that, we think there's several key business things that need to be accomplished here. First and foremost is powering those customer connections means business control. And you need to accelerate innovation. You also need to enable your transformation at the enterprise level, which means world-class performance. And I don't mean speeds and feeds. I mean execution. And the team needs to engage digitally. Finally, you have to focus on outcomes. It's great to have the business control. It's great to execute at world-class performance and to engage digitally, but don't lose your eye on the ball of what are those outcomes, which means you need to measure them, you need to simulate or otherwise test new hypotheses of outcomes, and you need to do that quickly. So what we see here is the flow of value from customer to your market value creation to your shareholder value. And that connection is very clear. To accomplish this, we believe that there's a couple key things you need. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, because some of you have heard this from me before, but these elements of composability and the ability to manage your key assets are critical to the success. And this is where we're focusing. Flexible architecture is going to become more important. Hybrid computing is going to be necessary, and it's very soon. And then, of course, the collaboration and the outcome. So driving business outcomes, where do you start? Sounds great. Do I have to invest in this huge effort to get my data together, to replace my systems? Some of you might have invested in data lakes. Some of you might not. Your data might be still federated and dispersed all over the enterprise. Some of you might have data warehouses with reporting. Some of you might be still using Excel spreadsheets. What all of you have, though, is you've invested in a lot of technology to run your business. And it's somewhat fragmented from a customer perspective. The key is actually bringing around that customer perspective and controlling it from a business without replacing it. And so our platform for applied intelligence sits strategically on top of, next to, alongside of, and within these systems. And it's connected to them. We don't require you to build a data lake. Leave your data where it's at. We'll go get it. We don't require you to change your fulfillment systems. Use them the way they are. Now, maybe you want to do that, but you don't have to in order to get this applied intelligence control. There are many things that you're going to hear here at FICO World, and I'd like to highlight 2 of them. I can't highlight all of them. I don't have sufficient time. But the first one I'll highlight for you is the advancements that we've made in actually understanding the customer and the customer data in an actionable way. We've added advanced techniques around feature generation and profiling and the management of those key characteristics. This allows you to take very large volumes of data, petabytes of information, and distill that down into relevant, important data items that you can take actions and decisions on. And we track exactly how they're used so that you know that they're valuable or not. The transparency and understanding that not only do I have the data, because we all know that more data is great, but now what contribution is that data making? You now have visibility to that. That drives the innovation stream faster. The second one that I recommend that you go look at is where we sit on our composability. If you haven't yet seen our new orchestration capability, I'd recommend that you take a look at that at the Innovation Center. Significant advancements made on that. As soon as you see it, you're probably going to want it. It's actually GA and ready for today. Beyond that, there's a whole series of investments we're making to make composability of your business and the personas of each of your business a real manifestation so that it becomes personalized for each one of your organizational lifecycle functions and what you do, but doing that in a way that's very collaborative. Strongly encourage you to take a look at that and watch for more to come. And now I'd actually like to get to a very exciting part of our product update. I'd like to give you a small glimpse into what's in the research. We talked about some of the things that we're doing, why it's important, what that's doing to steer our investments. Now I'd like to talk to you about what we're working on in the lab. One of the key parts of what FICO Platform does is it actually helps you manage the outcomes. And this influences the business decisions you make and where you head with it. You definitely should be looking at our business outcome simulation capability, which is now active in the Innovation Center and actually is being GA'd this summer. Major advancements being done there, but it's just the beginning. In this area, there is the application of generative AI. We have the data and the understanding of how your business is working, and we have successfully in the lab actually begun to use this form of AI to begin to understand and recommend where you go next. Think about that. The doors that opens is you can begin to ask this in a dialogue-based way. Where do you think I should go? And then not only actually get those options, but then simulate them for what business outcome they might actually offer. The good news here is we actually have some of this working already. But this is a glimpse. As part of this effort, we're actually making the initiative to containerize, just like we do any other analytic, Python, R, SAS models, the use of ChatGPT or other generative AIs in the platform. Now, this actually comes with the responsibility of how do you use that? How do you use that and where do you use that? And how do you use that in a responsible way? And so we're providing the ability with those containerizations. We're actually using that to help you with the business outcomes. And Scott Zoldi is going to talk to you tomorrow about how we're actually looking at changing the baseline to make it responsible. Going beyond what's here now to what's coming next, where this can become more valuable in operating your business. And I'll end with this. There are over 19 different innovations that we are actually launching at this event. I can't cover all of them. Go to the Innovation Center, go to the breakout sessions, and hear more about what we're doing in each of these key areas of analytics, transaction analytics, business simulation, decisioning, and our optimization and feature management. I wish I had more time to go on. I could actually spend all day, but I'm not going to subject you to that. Instead, we're going to check in on Jane.